At the outset, I would like to thank BJ Medical College Research Society, the Dean of the BJ Medical College, Professor M.B. Tambe, the Deputy Dean, Professor Karyakarte, and also Professor Kinikar, who are involved in organizing this major event amidst the major challenges which all of us are facing due to COVID-19. I also would like to recognize and thank Dr. G.R. Ikbote, who has been instrumental in letting me know about this important conference happening in Pune. Let me start with my respectful tribute to all those visionary, highly accomplished professors who established Research Society of BJ Medical College and Sassoon General Hospital in its centenary year, October 1968, to foster research enthusiasm and to encourage doctors to undertake research. Now, this is very, very important. You know, India wants more and more physician scientists, and such kind of research society conferences will enthuse and will create more physician scientists for our country. Those physician scientists who are excellent as physician or clinicians and also are very actively involved in research. So this is a grand legacy, I would say, of BJ Medical College and its research society. I would like to especially mention my mentor, Dr. Gururaj Mutalik, who was Dean of BJ Medical College at one point of time, and who happens to be the founder, one of the founders who continue to mentor me and inspire me at the age of 93 from United States. And whatever I have learned about integrative health and medicine is mainly from him. And I must mention that together we continue to write, and we have written several articles and a book on integrative approaches for health. So I'll be drawing a lot of material based on this book and our articles. Along with this, I also wanted to show you one picture which you see on screen. This is actually the picture of Sassoon Hospital, established in 1867. And one of the legendary spiritual personality of this region, Meher Baba, was born at Sassoon Hospital. You know? And during the centenary celebration, when this research society was being formed, Meher Baba sent his personal greetings to Dr. Mutalik, which he shared with me from the US just yesterday night. And you could see that this picture and this message from Meher Baba, which shows that there was at that time also integration of science and spirituality, you know, which is gaining much importance in these days. I also would like to mention several people I have learned, you know, and few of them I would like to mention here. Professor B.M. Hegde, eminent cardiologist, you could see him in the picture with me. Dr. M.S. Valiathan, Dr. R.D. Lele, with whom recently I have written an editorial, Dr. Ashok Vaidya, his wife Rama Vaidya, and Dr. R.S. Singh from Banaras Hindu University, who is an eminent Ayurvedic scholar. So you'll see that next picture is Professor Mutalik and me standing just in front of Harvard Medical School. Why I showed you all this is BJ Medical College and my relationships go a very long way. You know, I have been visiting BJ Medical College for my research, collaborative research purpose since 1985. And up to 2000, I was very active, you know, and you will see some of the papers which I have published in collaboration with professors from BJ Medical College. My collaborations were mostly in pharmacology department, but also in orthopedics, in medicine, in microbiology and radiology. This paper, what you see, is an iconic paper which was published in British Medical Journal that time. It was considered as major accomplishment. The first author, Dr. Prahlad Patki, who was professor of pharmacology that time, received a personal letter from then Health Minister of Maharashtra State, Mrs. Pushpatai Hire, appreciating the research work which was published in British Medical Journal. This was on essential hypertension, which happened in Department of Medicine under the supervision of cardiology professor S.V. Gokhale and Jasbir Singh, who was the intern that time. This was his MD dissertation topic. And biochemistry support at that time was given by Dr. P.M. Bulak and D.S. Shrotri, professor of pharmacology at that time. So you'll see at that time also this integration was there. I was representing Interdisciplinary School of Ayurvedic Medicine from Pune University, which you can see in my affiliation in this paper itself. And the work was carried out at the medicine department of BJ Medical College. So integration has a long history, and my association I'm very proud of with BJ Medical College. At that time, BJ Medical College and Pune University and National Chemical Laboratory had a formal memorandum of understanding to do collaborative research. NCL used to do chemistry, we used to do the pharmaceutics part of it, and the clinical work used to happen at BJ Medical College. And Pune University, NCL, Serum Institute, we had a lot of projects with Serum Institute also, Hindustan Antibiotics, Bharati Vidyapit Deemed University, NIV, all these actually during my PhD days or during my student days, BJ Medical College was like a extension or like our own department while working in the university. This was kind of a close collaboration which was happening at that time. After 2000, I went into few other engagements, and so the collaboration with BJ Medical College was not that aggressive, but still I continue even today to discuss and plan new ideas in collaboration with BJ Medical College professors. The integrative health and medicine, I have given a title for this talk, is it a chimeric notion or a new normal? And the title may sound a little different, but in this 47th annual conference of Research Society of BJ Medical College, I thought that I should present something very different. The chimeric notion, let's look at it. What is chimera? Chimera is typically a mythological or mystic entity. If you look at the Greek mythology, you will find that the lion with or horse with lion head and snake tail, such kind of a scary looking creatures emitting fire and things like that, or flying horse. So these are some kind of a monsters described in Greek mythology. But interestingly, in Indian or Hindu mythology, most of these chimeras are deities or gods, like Narasimha, or a few avatars of Dashavataras, few of them are like what you see on the screen, this Matsyavatara. They are all kind of a chimeras. But not only in mythology, chimeras have become a reality. They are kind of an experimental species which contain different sets of DNA. And as I was preparing for this lecture, I could read the article published in Nature just on 15th of April, just few days ago, in which they wrote about a new blastocyte which was created using monkey and human chimeras. So this is interesting, and which essentially chimeras mean there are two different sets which come together. Sometimes they are good, sometimes they could be bad. So we have to discover now, in case of integrative health and medicine, what this chimeric notion is. Part one, I will talk about health and medicine and this current scenario. And I can't resist but to start with what we are facing, the COVID-19 pandemic. We are actually facing existential crisis. The origin and spread of this virus is still a mystery. Both rich and poor countries are affected by this. Rapidly mutating virus is posing newer challenges. There is serious problem of reliable, authentic data. Every day we are reading something new, something different, something contradictory. There are contradictory claims, exploitation, and politics undergoing all over. Vaccine availability is improving, and that's a solace, but there seems to be a massive breakdown of trust. All this is at the backdrop of what I'm going to talk to you about integrative medicine. Therefore, we have to find opportunity in this kind of adversity. And COVID-19 emphatically has exposed inadequacy and incompetence of healing systems. COVID has brought modern and traditional medicine at the same level playing field. Earlier, we used to think that modern medicine is the only solution for everything, and traditional medicines are outdated. But no, modern medicine and COVID is as new to modern medicine as new it is to Ayurvedic or Unani medical practitioners. So both have strengths and weaknesses. Modern as well as traditional, both have strengths and weaknesses. And COVID havoc has paved way for pragmatic integration, which I think should be based on scientific evidence. Having said this, I must talk to you that while we are discussing about this integration and everything, we have to take sustainable development goals in front of us all the time. And goal 3 of SDG talks about good health and well-being and universal health coverage. You may be knowing that over 50% population in the world are not able to receive health services, and over 100 million are pushed into poverty due to out-of-pocket expenses. And during last year, during the COVID year, several more million people have pushed back into poverty. So we are in a very, very different kind of situation, which is not business as usual. This is not business as usual. We are witnessing an extraordinary situation. And all of us will agree that biomedical sciences are tremendously progress. There have been immense progress in terms of medicine, in terms of diagnostics, in terms of molecular understanding, in terms of surgery, robotics, artificial intelligence. Yet, there are many problems which remain unresolved that we have to accept. Many problems remain unresolved. There is a global crisis in healthcare which is deepening, and I'm putting question marks to everything. Affordable and accessible healthcare is a distant dream. Triple burden of disease and epidemic of non-communicable diseases, are we really understanding it clearly? The diet, lifestyle, and socio-behavioral changes which are happening around us, what role they play? The geriatric population is increasing, and most of them come out with 2 to 3 chronic conditions, and most of them are in prescription medicines, which are anywhere from 5 to 10. These are reports available. The high-tech interventions and pharmaceutical drugs, are they becoming more myopic? Societal expectations about drug safety and efficacy, definitely they are rising. And disease prevention and health promotion, should we not give a priority for prevention and promotion rather than only treatment and therapeutics? Let me take you to the recent paper published in JAMA just last month, March 2021. And JAMA published a paper telling leading causes of deaths in United States. And the third cause has now become COVID-19. First is heart disease, second is cancer, and third is COVID. And the fourth cause is very interesting. I wanted to pay attention to that. They have named it as unintentional injury. That is the fourth cause now, which earlier in British Medical Journal paper published in 2016, it was number 3. And British Medical Journal had named it as medical error. Now that term has been changed by JAMA and others also as unintentional injuries. But the fact remains what we need to introspect, and why this is happening. There is a medical overuse, and there is a huge concern shown all over the world about medical overuse. Journal like JAMA has started series entitled "Less is More." American Board of Internal Medicine, they have started a big campaign under the title Choosing Wisely. And choosing wisely meaning obviously choosing therapy or choosing drugs wisely. British Medical Journal has started a series under the title Too Much Medicine. And Lancet started a series, The Right Care. What does it show us? It shows us that overuse and commercialization of medical services, sciences, and drugs is increasing, and we must do something about it. The COVID has really given us few more serious glimpses about this to us. health, healthcare, and medicine. Although these three terms we use, but we must understand what each one is meaning. And in next few minutes, I'll just visit them. We talk about health and healthcare. Healthcare is essentially about primary care, primary healthcare, family medicine, health promotion, and disease prevention. That's about healthcare. Now, when we talk about cure, medicine comes in which diagnosis is there, drugs are there, surgeries are there, and hospitals are there. So generally, healthcare system, what we talk about, consists of both care and cure. But today, we are really leading to the next phase, which my mentor, Dr. B.M. Hegde, calls it as healthcare. Look at this advertisement, full page advertisement in newspaper. Are they ethical? People are getting scared. And can this kind of a healthcare is advisable to go in future? I'm just posing different questions. Research, and this is Research Society conference, so I thought of mentioning this. Lancet again published a series of articles, and conclusion of these articles was 85% of the research in biomedical sciences is West. 85% of the research. Many studies are not reproducible, and there is clear funding biases in the results. That means those funding agencies or industries who have sponsored particular studies, the results have gone in their favor. And John Ioannidis, I'm a fan of him actually. John Ioannidis is director of Matrix or Meta Research Innovation Center at Stanford. And John Ioannidis has written why most published research findings are false. And there is a lot of discussion happening in this round, and a question is raised: for whom scientists are working? Are they working for business? Are they working for people? Now, with this background, which I gave you in part one, let me take you to part two. In part two, I'll cover a few emerging trends in integrative approaches. First of all, let's see what is integrative medicine. Integrative medicine draws evidence-based trends from available knowledge systems, arts, science, technology in the best interest of people. It is predictive, preventive, personalized, and participatory, what now it is called as P4 medicine, that considers not just symptoms, but the whole person in the light of lifestyle and environment. It is based on scientific and experiential evidence, and it is definitely not mixopathy. When we talk about health and medicine, I thought of mentioning this, that health is something which is different than medicine. Although these two terms are intermixed with each other at the highest level, but health depends on four major determinants of health, which are environment, lifestyle, nutrition, and genetics. And you will agree that other than genetics, all three are in individuals' control. Individuals can decide whether to go on a healthy path by having healthy nutrition, healthy lifestyle, and stay in healthy environment. And if these four pillars of a building of health, any one becomes weak, then we need a support system. And that support system is actually healthcare, which actually is medical care through drugs and services and interventions. So globally, now health is regaining the focus, because when we lose health, we require medicine. But in this current situation, can we really empower people to maintain their health and wellness? This is a question. And as an example, I'll tell you, earlier, the National Institutes of Health used to have National Center for Complementary and Alternative Medicine. Recently, they changed that name to Integrative Health. It shows that integrative health and medicine, these terms are gaining a lot of popularity all over the world. And I'll show you a few more glimpses. But before I go to that, let me also tell you that we talk about health, but in our mind, we start thinking about medicine. And this is the example of our own university. This university is University of Health Sciences. But you look at it, how much of health is there in Health Sciences University? We are giving MBBS degree, BAMS degree, BHMS degree, nursing degree, physiotherapy degree. So this is all therapy and medicine degree. This is actually a medical university, but we are calling it as Health University or University of Health Sciences. In Pune University, we established department or school of health sciences, which is interdisciplinary school of health sciences, in which we look at the science of health, which is different than science of medicine. So this kind of a differentiation we must keep in mind. This integrative approach which we are talking about, is it new? No, it is not new. Consistently, it was recognized in India as in the world, starting from Bohr Committee in 1946 to the National Education Policy 2017 or National Education Policy 2020. Everywhere, integrative approach has been talked about. And if you look at few glimpses I have taken from these two policies, National Education Policy and National Health Policy, you'll see that terms like pluralism, terms like integrated medical care, terms like integrated courses, all these, and the integrative education, all these are very predominant throughout as policy pointers. Integrated medicine, there is a global scenario if you want to see, not only in India that is happening, in China, Korea, Japan, Americas, Canada, European Union countries, Australia, everywhere, integrated medicine is at the top of recognition. United Nations SDGs in Shanghai Declaration in 2016, they highlighted importance of traditional and complementary medicine. World Health Organization has come out with a new strategy on traditional and complementary medicine, and there is a new global report on traditional and complementary medicine just published in 2019. European Union has a big initiative called CAMRELA, Institute of Medicine, now called as National Academy of Medicine. In 2009 only in their summit, they highlighted importance of traditional and complementary medicine. NIH has this the National Center for Complementary Integrative Health. OSHER Collaborative for Integrative Medicine consists of 7 centers, consists of top universities such as Harvard and Karolinska coming from all over the world. Integrative Health Policy Consortium, Integrative Health Network Canada, several, and National Health Commission, Republic of China. All these are examples of getting popularity to integrative approaches. Medical doctors actually are health guardians, and all of you, I salute you, I adore you. I have seen when I visited Bizet Medical College to take my first vaccine shot just last month, I could see the kind of pressure Sassoon Hospital has to bear, the kind of pressure residents and the staff, professors, teachers in medical school, they have to bear, It is tremendous, you are really doing work of a God, I must tell you, and in so difficult environment, so challenging environment, people's expectations are skyrocketing, and your infrastructure and resources are dwindling. In such a situation, I wanted to tell you that people today, not only in India, but all over the world, they need their own choice to be executed. They want to execute their own choice. They want to decide when they want to get into allopathy or go into Ayurveda or yoga, when they want to do they need guidance for that purpose. People need choice-based healthcare. Modern medicine is excellent in communicable disease management, diagnosis, emergency medicine, acute care, palliative care, surgery, and therefore it is called as precision medicine, extremely precise. As against that, traditional medicine is excellent, very good in managing chronic conditions, many of the non-communicable diseases, mental health and wellness, diet, nutrition, immunity, lifestyle behavior modification, and it is person-centric, and therefore it can be called as personalized medicine. But this medicine, as a traditional or modern, whatever it is, what people need primary health care, people need family medicine and self-care, people need disease diagnosis and prevention, and people need public health system. So this, we need a family physician who can bring in best of the best from both the systems. Earlier there used to be family physicians, and I know many doctors even in Pune, such as Dr. Suresh Patankar, who after doing Ayurveda did his MBBS from Sassoon and went into super specialty. There are many such. Dr. Rajesh Pawar, who is Ayurvedic physician, he has excelled in ophthalmic techniques. So there are some good examples. We have to build on such examples and really try to see how best we can get into people-centered holistic approach using best of the best from available knowledge systems and resources. The integrative transition is actually happening. And because of the COVID-19 pandemic adversity, the opportunities are being created for reforming healthcare. Today we are in an era where we call it as medical care, which is about illness, sickness, drug-centric, curative approach. We have to transit from this to preventive care, which is more based on prognosis, diet, and lifestyle. And from this, we have to further transit to true healthcare, which is person health, wellness-centric, integrative approach, which is more focused on personalized medicine and public health. Experimental approach involves science and technology advances, which is evidence-based medicine, and experiential approach brings in practice-based evidence. Both are important, practice as well as science. The integrative medicine strategy, I will not go into details because all of you are medical students or teachers, and you know this well. But the integrative medicine should be culturally rooted. It has a global outlook, but our own culture. We are in India, and if we don't understand what is our own culture, what is our own history, what is our own medicine, it is not complete. Our medical knowledge is not complete. The community strengths and needs we must understand. We have to adopt a system or scenario wherein we will be able to say, your health in your hand. Today, our approach is your health in our hand. This approach should be little modified to empower people to take care of their health. And we are there, or medical doctors are there when people lose health, to treat them, to give their health back. The national strengths and needs, logical and rational, it should be, the integration should be pragmatic and not dogmatic. I should not say that Ayurveda knows everything, and nobody should really look at, no, yoga knows everything. No, it is not who knows it. This is not a war of turf, This is about people. We should try to give what people need in a very ethical and progressive manner. And we should innovate while doing so. And there is a lot of scope to innovate using this kind of an integrative system. The ever-increasing cost is becoming unsustainable. But I must tell you, immunity and inflammation have come on the center stage. And the mental health has become a key driver. And in immunity, inflammation, and mental health, there is a lot to learn from traditional systems of medicine, be it Ayurveda, Yoga, Unani, Siddha, Sowa Rigpa, all of them, they have, each one of them come up with some kind of advantage. So not just treat disease. The new approach is prevent the disease and intercept it as early as possible. The progressive pharma industry now wish to focus the root of the problem and not just treating disease, but through prevention and early interception. And I must tell you that top pharma people, top pharma industries are seriously thinking in this direction. So they are equally giving now importance not only to pharmacological interventions, but also physiological interventions, and new business models are coming up in the area of wellness. And I want to ask this question: can a business and profits linked to sufferings and agony of people, it can be sustainable? Can it be sustainable? Can we go on and on making profits and doing business based on somebody else's agony and sufferings? I doubt. Traditional or modern, these terms we keep on using. And when we talk about food, whether we want food, good food, or medicine we want to make a food, there are prescriptions which I have seen, people are not able to consume those medicines. They are not able to even consume small. They have no appetite, and we are giving them medicine as per medicine. So let the food be your medicine. This is the Hippocrates message, and not medicine becomes your food. Nutrition or supplements, family chats or mobile apps, living rooms or home theaters, home kitchens or Swiggy's home deliveries, consumerism or minimalism, illness or wellness. These are the questions we have to ask and seek answers, and actually find answers ourselves and propagate those. I must tell you that just in November 14th, there was a major recognition of Indian effort which is going on to tackle COVID situation, in which Ministry of Ayush has played a major role, recognizing that WHO has announced that the Global Center for Traditional Medicine will be established in India. WHO Director General made that announcement on 14th of November, which was Dhanvantari Day, and our Prime Minister immediately welcomed this idea, and Government of India has now appointed a joint task force by WHO, and Government of India has been appointed. I am part of it. I must tell you that this spirit was there all the time in BZ Medical College. I want to give you this one example of how in COVID situation, work on ashwagandha or immunomodulatory work on ashwagandha, actually I did most of it in BZ Medical College. Prahlad Patki has been my co-author in many of my articles, But look at this slide and I'll tell you that the progression of SARS-CoV-2 infection from early stage to severe stage to end stage, if you look at each stage, early stage, there is reduced Th1 response, there is increased macrophage function, there is reduction in NK cell function, and there is lymphopenia. Now look at ashwagandha, what ashwagandha can do. Ashwagandha, actually we have shown in our own studies, published studies, that it can improve Th1 response. In fact, ashwagandha is selective Th1 upregulator. It can improve or increase B and T cell function. It can increase NK cell function. It has excellent antioxidant activity. It can re-establish immune homeostasis. So what we are talking about, the cytokine storm in case of COVID, ashwagandha can come out as a great help in that. And in addition to all this, ashwagandha has anti-inflammatory and immunomodulatory activity, which is a tremendous help in COVID. Currently, we are comparing in a double-blind controlled clinical trial effect of ashwagandha directly with hydroxychloroquine for prophylactic effect in COVID. And the next step of our study is we are going to study ashwagandha as vaccine adjuvant. So in the double-blind placebo-controlled trial, we will see that in one group we'll give ashwagandha as a pre-treatment before they take vaccine, and we'll see after they take vaccine with pre-treatment of ashwagandha, is there any difference in immunogenicity. These studies are actually in the final protocol stage, and by next week, I hope that we'll be registering these studies in CTRI. These will be multicentric studies. And so evidence-based integrative medicine in short, integrative medicine brings corrective surgery, emergency measures from allopathy, and preventive palliative and mental health from traditional health system. So modern medicine became modern medicine because it went along with modern science. Otherwise, earlier it was Greek traditional medicine, before it became modern medicine. So we can take our own traditional medicine with science and come out with a future medicine which is more evidence-based. Physics, chemistry, biology, engineering, technology, omics, biotechnology, nanotechnology, bioinformatics, scientific computing, all of this has contributed to progress of modern medicine. So modern medicine is not just diagnosis, therapeutic, super specialties, surgical advances, and public health, but modern medicine is based on very, very strong support from science and technology, and similar support we can provide and offer to our own traditional systems of medicine and bring that back with scientific support to give best of the best to people rather than getting engaged in these kinds of war of turf. These two editorials which you see on the screen are available, and in which one editorial is with Dr. R.D. Lele, in which we are talking about transiting from pathy-based approach to person-centric holistic healthcare. And Niti Aayog, which is the top think tank of India, they have appointed a high-power committee for development of a framework for integrative health system. This committee chaired by Dr. Vinod Paul, who is member health, and I'm vice chairman of that committee. And together with many eminent scientists, medical scientists, and physicians and practitioners, there are 4 working groups which are working very hard to come out with this. But let me tell you again that we talk about integrative medicine, which is evidence-based. It is not mixopathy. Integrative health and medicine, is it a new normal? This is again my question is, let me tell you, in US, The Osher Collaborative, what I talked about, it has Harvard Medical School, Karolinska, Northwestern University, University of California at San Francisco, University of Miami, University of Washington, and Vanderbilt University. These are the founding members of Osher Collaborative. In addition, there are several other top universities and medical institutions in the US, including Mayo Clinic, are aggressively practicing integrative practices in their own hospitals and in their own medical systems. In India also, AIIMS, not only New Delhi, but almost all AIIMS have integrated medicine departments within them. NIMHANS has integrative medicine department. The top hospitals, private hospitals like Medanta, Manipal, they have adopted integrative medicine very, very well. And I must tell you, BJ Medical College and Sassoon Hospital had Ayurvedic ward since many years. I don't know from which year it started, but it was so visionary. KEM Hospital in Mumbai, it also has the Ayurvedic ward. So these KEM and BJ Medical College are actually pioneers in this kind of an integrative approach. Sharadidi Dhanukar at KEM and several medical doctors from BJ Medical College have actually contributed to this cause. BHU, Banaras Hindu University, S. Vyasa, or Transdisciplinary University of Bangalore, there are several. I've just mentioned few. They are all in India, So is it a new normal really? Because globally, it is becoming a reality. So I will end my talk by again showing the first slide as a chimeric notion. And the last slide, which is integrative medicine, asking you a question whether it is a new normal. And the integrative health and medicine, is it a chimeric notion or a new normal? You will be able to answer this question in a better fashion after my modest presentation before all of you. Let me admit that I have drawn several points from our editorials in Journal of Ayurveda and Integrative Medicine published by Elsevier, which I edit, and the book which I have written with Professor Gururaj Mutalik and Girish Tillu, Integrative Approaches for Health, and both these books are published by Academic Press Elsevier. With this, I would like to thank the Research Society of BJ Government Medical College and Sassoon General Hospital. And again, thank you, Dr. Tambe, Dr. Karekarte, Dr. Kinikar, and Dr. Egbote for this wonderful opportunity given to me to engage with eminent faculty and students of this great institute, BJ Medical College. Namaskar, Jai Hind.